for the good of all.
What's going on, heroes? I hope you're doing great and thank you for tuning into the video. For anyone who thinks that they rode the struggle bus getting into PC gaming, I'm about to raise you a story of the first PC that I used to seriously play on. And if you believe you had it rough, you may want to think again. What's playing right here is some World of Warcraft, and I'm on my level 44 enhancement shaman running the dungeon Utgard Pinnacle. For those who are savvy, I'm doing the Wrath Time Walking campaign because, well, I think it's the best, and I would tell y'all that this is supposed to be my main character, but let's face it, I've had a different main character every single time I featured Warcraft on the channel, so yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that. Speaking of Warcraft, if you watched my video about the Wii, you may remember me talking about how I used to play old PC exclusives back in the day, so technically I've always been a PC gamer. The thing is, any PC exclusive titles that I played do pale in comparison to my experience on World of Warcraft. This is a game I played for 14 years. When I finally got out of my noob stage in WoW and my mom got a newer-ish family PC, I downloaded the latest expansion, which was Wrath of the Lich King, wow, at the time, and I played it into oblivion, some of the best days ever. In fact, I was so curious as to which PC it was, I went back and did some Googling and I finally found it. It was an HP Pavilion. And seeing this thing brought back some serious memories. My experience with Warcraft has been on and off a couple times through the years, but it was pretty much non-stop up until about the last quarter of the Cataclysm expansion, which was late 2011. After that came the Mists of Pandaria expansion, which I didn't get into right away. I got on board with that in early 2013, so I had a nice little break there. By the time Mists of Pandaria came out and I got back into the scene, Warcraft had made some pretty significant graphical upgrades and good old HP Pavilion was having a tough time keeping up, a really tough time actually. I went from maybe having 20 to 30 frames per second in Wrath of the Lich King to like 10 FPS in Pandaria. Yeah. But fortunately for me, that was a time before I was ever even used to playing at like 60 FPS and above, so it wasn't terrible in that aspect. However, that wasn't even the worst part about old HP Pavilion. Here's where things got really bad. Somewhere in between when I stopped playing in Cataclysm and picked back up in Pandaria, the Pavilion pretty much died, okay? You could hit the power button, you could press it, you could hold it, you could mash it, pulverize it, nothing would happen. However, there was a small green flashing light on the back that just continuously blinked. 17-year-old Delta wasn't having it. It was time to get back into Warcraft, and the only option I had was the Pavilion. I did all kinds of research into the wee hours of the night, trying to figure out what the hell was wrong with this thing. I'm talking about Googling for hours on end. And eventually I came to the conclusion that it was the power supply. So after a few days of tweaking, poking it, messing around with it to no avail, I almost just given up until I came across an article that said that they had the same issue and managed to fix it. Hope was restored. The day was saved, or so I thought. Till this day, I still have no idea how they came to this. But what worked for them was to take a hairdryer, and blow hot air into the back of the power supply fan to warm it up, and the light would go from blinking to solid, and the computer would be able to turn on. I cannot make this stuff up. When I tell you, I was like, what in the actual ghetto tarnation is this? But I had no other ideas or options, so I ran to my mom's room and I told her, I'm like, yo, I need to borrow the hairdryer. I need it. I don't have time to explain. And she was still confused, of course, as one would expect. But when I got it, I went back to the pavilion to try it out. So there I was, standing there holding a hairdryer to the back of the computer, staring at that blinking light, looking like Boo Boo the Fool. And I stood there with no luck, and right before I was about to call it quits, it happened. The light stayed on. I hit that power button as fast as I could and ran to tell my mom that I saved our computer. And from that point, I installed Mists of Pandaria as soon as I could and got back to it. Although, sadly, the days of struggle weren't quite over. The pavilion was like just seriously on its last leg. If I let the room get too cool while I was playing, it would just shut off. And this especially became a problem in the winter where the house was just naturally cooler. So what that ended up turning into is me having to keep a space heater on a stool beside the computer in order to keep it on. All of that just to play at 10 frames per second on the lowest graphic settings. Yeah. On a good note, I did find out that the space heater was way more efficient at warming up the power supply, so I didn't have to bother my mom every single time the computer turned off. Go figure. This pretty much continued until I got my first real gaming PC in late 2013, and when I did, I didn't know what to do with myself. I was getting over 60 frames per second. I didn't have to heat my computer up to turn it on. It was like a caveman discovering electricity or something. What do you think about my terrible experience with this pavilion? Have you ever heard of anything like that? Maybe you have or had a situation that can top it. I'd like to speak with you about it in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the story, leaving a thumbs up will let me know and help this video get out to other awesome heroes like yourself. To see more of my content, make sure you hit that subscribe button with the bell icon, which will let you know when I upload again. Thank you for watching, and I hope you come back sometime.
May the Naru watch over you.